Good morning, Buffalo. You are listening to the Buffalo UA podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman. Right now, I would love to introduce my very lovely co-host, Ari.
Yes. Hi, dude, man. I'm up and ready for this episode.
So right now I'm going to introduce the guest that we have.
I am Veronica Rozler. I'm an actor first. I am also a model. I've done a little bit of directing here and there. I'm also a dancer and a singer, and I do some aerial arts as well.
So this is called fan mail. The way it works is that you guys, the listeners, will send in your questions to our Facebook or our Instagram at Buffalo U Up. We will ask it right here on the podcast, and the guest of the week will answer. So without further ado, Ari, you want to ask the first question?
I kind of like this question. So, if you have one, what is your favorite planet and why?
My favorite planet is, I would say, Mercury. Solely because I did a science project on it when I was probably like 10. And so it always stood out in my mind. I was like, yeah, that Mercury one, the hot one, right? Is that right? It might be wrong. I don't remember.
I didn't have to do a project on Mercury, so I believe you.
Yeah, I'm probably wrong, to be honest. It was long enough ago and I'm far enough removed from science that I'm probably wrong about it.
My favorite planet is Jupiter, but that's because I grew up as a Sailor Moon fan, and that was my Sailor Moon equivalent character. Dude, man, do you have a favorite planet?
I do. It's the moon. For two reasons. One, dude mom. Hi. Two, the Even Stevens episode where Ren has to talk about the moon, and she's like, all I know is two things, and she turns into a musical, which are We Went to the Moon 1969 and Neil Armstrong. I love musicals, so that Evans episode's really good.
Moons aren't planets. See, planets orbit the sun, moons orbit the planets. So the moon actually doesn't really count as a planet. Which is why Pluto doesn't count either.
I'll forgive it. I'll forgive you on this one.
Thank you. So since we're talking about planets, this will be a great transition for my question, because you did a short film in 2023 called Sirens.
Yes.
So in that, you're an astronaut and you discover a new planet. Mm-hmm. So that's why that was a great question. Here's mine. Do you believe in astrology? What's your sign? And what traits are associated with it that you think are true for you? P.S. I'm a Leo, so I am a monster.
You're a Leo?
I do believe in astrology. I think I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I know a little bit about it. I'm a Taurus personally. I think the biggest one is they say that they're extremely stubborn, and I think that's really me. I'm kind of the poster child for that. I'm if I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it, and also if it's not my way, we're not doing it that way. So yeah, I also one of those people where someone's go do this. I'm well, I was going to, but now that you told me to, I won't. So yeah, definitely. I like a little bit of astrology, and I like being ooh, let me look up what other people are and just test it. But yeah, I don't know as much about it as some people do, but definitely believe in it a little bit.
My sister's a Taurus, so I'm all for the Taurus.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I have another friend who, I'm a crazy cat lady, if I haven't said that yet on the show. And I have another friend who's a cat lady, and she is a Taurus too. And it's
great.
Taurus vibes are great.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think so too.
Although I'm a Virgo, and most people think that we're annoying and strict and perfectionists and just way too uptight and difficult to deal with. But really, it's just, we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to work. Yeah. Stop asking questions and
we're right,
just
so get out of the way.
follow direction.
Ari, next question.
Oh, I have another question. All right. Let's see. Ooh, I like this one. Do you believe in the paranormal?
my mom has a bakery, and the building that we're in it's a new build, but it's connected to an old build. Deeply haunted building, very deeply haunted. And I've never heard anything or felt anything, but everyone else is like, yeah, I just saw something in that corner. So I believe them. I trust them. So I think so.
Well, I hope whatever is remaining in that building is gentle and kind, because most of the time they are.
I don't think anyone's ever done anything horrible in that building, so I'm sure they're just there to hang out.
Well, you're fun to hang out with, so I can understand why they'd want to hang out with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That means so much to me.
So that paranormal question was great, because I believe in 2022 you had a Buffalo 48 short film called Sightings.
Yes.
And so this question, Mark 23 Springville, it says, I loved your performance in Sightings. Your character was very deeply traumatized by the haunting. And so he wants to know, how do you prepare for a role like that?
Well, that one was difficult because it was a 48. So you don't have time to prepare. We wrote it that morning and then filmed it the rest of that day. But it's so funny because it's kind of been like a running joke in my career that I'm always the dead girl or the deeply suffering girl. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, you just go. You just do it. I'm used to being the one that's suffering. But yeah, I think it was also kind of atmosphere. It was in not a creepy house. It was actually a very nice house. But the way it was set and the way that we were filming, it was a found footage. So we were doing a lot of handoffs with the camera and stuff. I remember the girl who played the ghost. The one scene that we did with her was very creepy. She did a good job. She was total creep about it. And yeah, when there were a couple scenes where we just had her walking through the backyard in the dark with a lantern, and I was like, this is really freaky. So yeah, it wasn't too hard because it was just kind of oh, I'm used to being the disturbed girl. And like I said, we didn't have time. But yeah, it was just kind of just go for it. Just get freaked out, scream, look distressed, and just go.
The makeup was on point.
Yeah. They were like, we want you to look disheveled and exhausted. And I was like, okay. Not too hard, but go for it.
Not every actor can portray such dramatic roles, especially without time to prepare. Yeah. So having that range is definitely a good skill set.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's kind of... I'm a heavily dramatic and over emotional person. So I think it really benefits me in the long run. Maybe not in daily life all the time, but in this field, it definitely does.
Ari, next question.
Okay, let's see. Hey, Veronica, I just saw Big Brood. I saw you were covered in black goo. Yes. How long were you covered in the goo? And did any of it get in your mouth? And if it did it taste good?
So, this is my story. I feel like every actor has a movie that they did where they're like, this is my story that I will tell at parties. And mine was Big Brood. So everyone had their opportunity to get gooed, and I was the last one. They did it on the last day. And they had a 4-gallon bucket that they just dumped on me. And then they were like, okay, stay there. We're going to go film other stuff. And I had to lay on the floor in this goo. I was in it for probably 3 hours. It was 100 degrees that day, and the goo was really cold, so it felt really good. But they were very strict. Do not get it in your mouth. You have to scream in between pores. You have to seal your mouth. Do not get it in your mouth. I don't think it was toxic or anything, but they were just it's better if we don't. It wasn't that hard to wash off, actually. The other part of my story where it was one of those moments, I don't know if other actors have these moments, especially in indie film scene, where all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing right now? And so I got gooed. I sat in it for hours, and then they were like, okay, we were filming in some random old man's barn. And they were like, go in his house and wash it all off because we still have stuff to film with you before you got gooed. I don't know why we didn't do it first, but
because they forgot.
Right, it was not structured well, and then
they made a mistake.
So he didn't have a shower. He just had a bathtub and a little bucket. So I'm kneeling in this bathtub under a faucet, pouring water over my head trying to get this goo off me. And I was just like, what am I doing? What am I doing? But it turned out fine. It was a very long day. I think it was like 17 or 18 hour day. And it was, the worst was once I got gooed and I had to lay there. Then it got cold out because it got dark. And I was just like, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of here. But it turned out good. I think the effects looked really great in that movie. And it's definitely an experience I'll remember.
The thing that was like super cool about the film was the fireworks. What was that like? Like how they set it up, safety precautions, anything like that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were two scenes with fireworks. There was the one at the very end, and then there was the one where it's like we're just blowing them off for fun. And it was kind of just like, you guys stay back there. You guys stay away from it. I'm trying to think of how we filmed that last scene with the fireworks. I'm pretty sure they just blew them off while we sat there. But that was by the point where I was like, I'm ready to be done with the goo. So I struggled with that scene. I was freezing. I was wet. It was like soaked through my shirt and my hair. But it looks pretty cool. And like the reflection of the lights on our faces and stuff, it was a good scene. It came out really good.
See, I'm just intimidated to do a scene like that because like my luck is usually anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah. So I'm not doing a fireworks scene in one of my movies.
Hand blown off. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
You'd end up eating the goo.
Yeah, you'd end up with goo in your mouth from the fireworks. It'd just show up.
So that's just why. But when I see something like that on an indie film, I'm like, that's so ballsy. Yeah. And I love that they just had the courage, and it turned out really phenomenal. Yeah. So just applause all around.
Yeah, definitely.
JD, so are you a Heather?
No, I'm Veronica.
Very good. Thank you. You're welcome. Ari, next question.
Are you inspired by any actors, whether they be local or nationally known, worldwide known? And why might these actors inspire you?
I think a big one for me is Emily Blunt, just because her range is incredible. Like for me, I find I kind of struggle with comedy. And she is so good at comedy, but then she does the super dramatic, really heavy, really dark films. And I think that's kind of what I aspire to be able to do, to just be able to do anything across the board. So she's always one that like pops into my head. Another one used to be local, but not anymore. She moved to New York, is Pandora Q.
No Pandora.
I love Pandora. She's like such an incredible person, like first and foremost. And I was in class with her for a long time, and it was like, ooh, Pandora's going up. It was so much fun just to get to watch her act. So, yeah, she's a big one for me too.
Moon River. So I first became familiar with your work from watching you in Moon River. There is a lot of interesting music in the film. What do you think that your character would listen to? And then what kind of music do you, Veronica, listen to in real life?
I think she was an indie girl. She was... kind of like the indie pop scene, I think, was kind of her. But for me, I'm a pop girly. I love pop. I also like this sort of like R&B pop too. But like I'm way on Sabrina Carpenter right now. Like me and everyone else, I'm not special. But yeah, I'm a big pop girl for sure.
It's funny, I was literally listening to emails I can't send myself before we got here. Like, that's how I was getting ready for this podcast, that's what I was listening to. Yeah. I'm trying to tell all my friends, no, dude, you have to listen to Sabrina. Good. She's so good.
Yeah, I love that album.
Ari, question.
So you said you do a little bit of directing. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so I've directed and I've assistant directed. I directed actually a film with Pandora. It was a short film. We changed the name of it, so I'm trying to remember what it was called. It was called Sparrow, I believe was the final name of it. And it was super interesting and really fun. It was basically written by a close friend of mine, Luke, who was my co-star in Big Brood. He wrote it with a friend of ours, and it was about a younger brother whose sister abandons him with his abusive father because she decides she's a lot older and she needs to leave the situation. And they reconnect, and she's kind of in like a troubled lifestyle, but hiding it very well. And they reconnect, and he kind of confronts her about everything. And then it turns out that he is actually an undercover cop who is there to arrest her. And it was really, really fun, and it was really interesting. We only had 2 days to shoot it. I was working with Victor Crumb. That's from Harry Potter. Patrick Crumb. Close, very close. Patrick Crumb was the DP, who is phenomenal. He's absolutely incredible, and I just learned so much from him. And yeah, directing it's kind of hard, honestly, because you're like, I know, like in my head as an actor, I'm like, okay, this is how I want it done. I'll just do it. And then having to convey that to someone else, even though we're all actors, but everyone has different actor brains. So it is difficult to figure out, how do I say this and how do I get what I'm trying to get here? And then, yeah, the next week I AD'd a film for Patrick. And it was just such a great experience working with him. Him and Luke, they make films together all the time. So I just learned so much in those 2 weeks from them. And then I just AD'd a short film for a very good friend of mine, Marissa Graves. She did a really, really awesome film that I think... Actually, Biff didn't come out yet with their lineup, but it got put into Biff submissions, so we're hoping it'll come out for Biff. But yeah, it's very different than being an actor, especially the biggest thing for me, which this is terrible. But being an actor, you're not expected to do anything on set. It's like you sit there and you come do what you're supposed to do and you go sit somewhere else. And being crew, it's like, go do something. Like, go pick that up, go move that. Like, there's so much more to do. And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta work. Not that acting isn't working, but more physically demanding, I guess. But yeah, I think ADing it's good for me because it's very heavy organization, which I'm very good at. And directing is I think it's a really rewarding experience, being like, wow, I ran a set and it feels really good. So yeah.
So trying to like go back to the last question for Moon River. So it's a very intense short film. What were your thoughts when you first read the script? And were you sort of like intimidated by like the sources that like the topics it dives into?
Right. Well, it changed a little bit from when I first read the script. The final product did, but I don't think I was intimidated by it. I think I was excited to get to handle something that feels so personal and so like sensitive and dramatic too. I think that's where like my strength really is like very raw, vulnerable, emotional stuff. So when I read the script, I was like, well, this will be great for me, even though it was very heavy and there was a lot of crying and a lot of blood and it was tough. But yeah, it changed a little bit. I don't know if I could spoil it, but in the original script, I get hit by a car and that's how I die. And then obviously it changed in the end, which made more sense for it to be that way.
No,
even
I agree.
though,
I agree with the way it ended.
Yeah, even though it was very graphic and very tough and very heavy, it made more sense and it worked a lot better. But yeah,
you had a phenomenal cast because you had Izzy,
yes,
and you had Marina.
Yeah,
great actors.
Yeah.
And again, I love that film and I loved your performance. So that was really what made me go, we have to have Veronica on this season just because it was just such a great film and it was very important too.
Thank you. Yeah, it was my first role I ever got to play. And I feel like I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that it was one that was really special. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions and this is based on what you're doing right now. So this is the Finding Yourself YouTube series that you're doing. What inspired you to start doing the series and what have you learned since you started doing the series?
So I feel like I've had personally and mentally a tough couple of years. Just a lot of different factors playing into me struggling with my depression a lot, struggling with other mental illnesses a lot. And I went into this year being like, okay, I just need to get it together, really. I really need to find a way to just come back to myself. I feel like I went through a pretty traumatic relationship and breakup that ended in 2022, the very beginning. And I spent like the 2 years after that just like becoming me. And then the last 2 years, I've kind of spent losing me again. And so I kind of hit a wall where I was like, okay, I need to get back to that. I need to, and maybe not even get back to that, but move forward again in the way that I did then. And I don't know, I think in my head, there's something about documenting yourself that's very motivating. It kind of like forces you to do it in a way. There's so much that I filmed that I'm like, this probably isn't going to go up. Like, I think I said in my first video, there's a lot of footage that's like just me being like, I'm sad. I don't feel good, which doesn't really serve much purpose. But yeah, I just feel like it was something that I was like, I think for me personally, and this is something someone said to me, one of my acting coaches said to me in class once, I had to do a pretty tough scene. And it was like an improv exercise where we did this. He just like gave us a scenario and we had to do it. And it was really emotional and tough. And he's like, you're just so brave. Like, you're so brave. You'll get up here and you'll do anything. And you're so vulnerable. And you'll sit up here and cry if you have to. And it's real and it's raw. And I feel like that's one of my greatest strengths, not only as an actor, but just as a person. I'm so easily vulnerable. I said in one of my videos, I'll tell anybody anything. Like, I'll just sit, I don't have to know you, but you'll know my life story. You'll know it very quickly. So yeah, I was just like, I think there's something about being vulnerable that can be scary and can make people not like you. But I also think there's something about it that's really special and can connect you to so many people. So that was kind of why I was like, I think this is the right thing for me to do right now.
I've loved both your episodes. Right now, at the time of this, there's only 2, but I hope when we upload it, there'll be more.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do one this week.
Thank you so much for sharing, because I can really relate to that. Awesome. And it just, make it, like you said, it's not easy, but making others feel like they're not alone. Yeah. And I do have a question from me. Just curious, who do you take acting classes with?
So I've had 3 acting coaches. My first coach was Josie DiVincenzo. I love her so much. She's so incredible. And I told her recently, I was like, I'm going to cry. I was like, you are the first person who believed in me. Like, I had never really acted before, and I took a couple classes with her, and she was like, we got to get you working because you can do this. And it just meant so much to me to have someone see me the way I wanted to be seen. So she's incredible. I love her. Then I worked with Bob Rush for a few years, who is also amazing. He's just like very knowledgeable. Josie always says he's kind of the meat and potatoes guy. Like, he just, he gives you, this is how you act and this is how you do it well. And he's fantastic, and he's been so supportive of me, and I love him. And then recently I started at the ALC studio, which has been very different from the other 2. It's been a very different experience, but it's been good. I feel like I've felt myself improve so much in just a few months there, just working in a different method. So yeah.
What sort of audience do you think this will like reach out to, like touch, like be relatable to?
Okay, let me think. I'm hoping that it just finds the people who need it. The people who have struggled with what I struggle with, people who struggle with the depression. I'm also bipolar 2. I have OCD tendencies. I've had anxiety. I can pinpoint the day my anxiety started when I was 3 years old in preschool, which is super fun. It's like such a stupid story, but it changed my entire life. It affected me ever since. And I don't know, there's so many people who I think, like we were saying, like feel very alone and don't realize that there's other people who feel the same way. There's other people who feel like they're losing themselves constantly. I think something that I've struggled with in the last few years is feeling like there's so many good things that happen to me. So why am I so sad? And why am I moving backwards? And why aren't I moving forward? When in some ways I'm very much moving forward. And then in other ways, I'm so far regressed from where I was 2 years ago. So yeah, I just wanted to find the people who need it and who need to see someone say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get better. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to fix these things as best I can. And I'm going to find me again, and I'm going to move forward. And so that's just who I want it to go to, the people who can relate to it and relate to sometimes being a little bit of an outcast, but being able to define yourself and feel you again and just move forward with your life and what you're meant for.
That was a great edition of Fan Mail. Listeners, remember, if you want your questions asked, send it to our Facebook or our Instagram at Buffalo You Up. I'm Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, still up.
Guest.
Veronica Rozler, also still up.
Thank you for being our guest.
Of course.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Buffalo You Up podcast. And we're back. You're listening to the Buffalo You Up podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, my co-host.
Ari Nicole, and hey Brian, are you still up?
I am. Are you up?
Yes, and I'm excited for this next segment. Should I introduce it?
Yes, please. But can we ask our guest if...
Veronica, are you up?
I am up. I feel like I'm getting more and more up as we go.
Nice.
Wonderful. So our next segment is called Plug Yourself. This is where you get to tell us where we can see your work. Do you have any films that are streaming online in any services? Do you have any other Instagram or Facebook links that we can find your stuff? Where in the world is Veronica Rozler?
All right. Well, I am on Instagram. My name is just my name, Veronica Rozler. My modeling portfolio is on there as well. I believe my acting reel is also on there. I have a YouTube channel, which we've been talking about, where I'm posting my Find Yourself journey. That's also just Veronica Rozler. And then I have some works online. I have Big Brood, which is on, you said it's on Tubi. I think it's on Amazon. I was told it was on Amazon Prime. It might just be on Tubi now, but I think it's still on Amazon.
That was just the first link.
First one that came up.
Yeah.
It's definitely on Tubi. Might be on Amazon if you have it. I have Sightings, which is on YouTube. I believe it is on Will Corb's channel. I have Moon River, which is on the Inked Paw YouTube channel.
Tension is also there.
Tension is also on there, yes. I think that's all that's like available to stream, but I also have Sirens, which is in the festival circuit right now. I have The Surgeon, which I filmed earlier this year, which is going to be in the Amazing Dreams Festival. Is that the name of it? Amazing Fantasy. I mixed the two names together. Amazing Fantasy Fest.
Yeah. We knew what you meant.
Yeah, and then NOKK, which is also going to be in the same festival. I'm not sure which day, but The Surgeon will be on Tuesday the 17th. Yeah.
Why doesn't everybody just go to the whole entire festival and check out all of these awesome films?
And so many local films, too. That's really, really important to get to see.
This will be your first year going to like a film festival to like see your own work that's like not a 48?
Yeah, I will. I've never been to a film festival like that, so I'm really excited. I went to a film festival in New York City when my sister had a film in, but I've never gotten to see my own work in one, so it'll be cool.
Nice. Are you at all nervous, or do you think that it'll be good?
Oh, of course, especially because I haven't seen it, and I probably won't get to see it before it goes up. So it's very like you sit there kind of shrunken in your chair, like, oh, is this gonna be any good? Did I do my job? But I'm excited. I think that was a really fun project and a really fun role. So I'm looking forward to it. But there's always nerves watching yourself for sure.
You crushed it in every role that I've seen you do, so I have no doubt that you'll be strong in this one as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That'll do it for Plug Yourself. Cool. So now we're going to go into the next segment. This one is called A Hero's Journey. So basically this is just where I ask, where'd you get your start? What have you learned through the years of performing? And yeah, just tell me more about like your journey.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I started acting, I believe it was 2021. I mean, I did a couple productions in high school, a couple musicals. I also love musicals, so I started training in 2021 with Josie DiVincenzo. Worked with her, worked with Bob Rush for a year, and then I started taking auditions. My first role ever, I signed up to do background on the movie The Puppet Man that filmed here in the beginning of 2022. It was a horror movie for Shudder. And I signed up to do background because I was like, I've never been on set before, and I want to get a set experience in a low pressure way. And the director ended up asking me to stay an extra day, or maybe it was a half day, and do a featured role, which got cut from the movie, and I was devastated when I found out.
They paid you for it, right?
Yeah, not much, but I did get paid for it.
Background and features.
Yeah,
There's
and
a-
like my
that's a
character
big-
had a name and stuff too, but I didn't have any lines, but I did have a name. But it made sense for them to cut it when I watched the movie. I was like, my little part did not make sense at the end of that scene.
But as long as you got the paycheck,
Yeah,
that's always.
yeah, but
well,
that.
not always, but
But sometimes.
it's important.
It was a special experience for me though, because it was like, I had just quit my job and decided to pursue acting. And it was just like being noticed on that first project and being like, no, come on, and we're going to keep you. And the second AD was really, really wonderful. And he told me, he's like, you're very attentive and you're very aware on set. And that's something a lot of people just can't learn. And this is your first time on set and you get it. So it was a very like, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be sort of moment. So then when it got cut, I was really upset. But it didn't take away that experience. And then, I remember when I was on set for that movie, I got the email that I got cast in Moon River. And we did Moon River, which was really, really special. And I made some wonderful friends off of it. Rest in peace, Stephen Carroll, who was wonderful, one of my very good friends that we lost way too soon. He was one of the producers on that, one of the writers as well. But it was just a really special experience. It was a film that means so much to me. And getting to have that be my first role meant a lot. And then, it just kind of kept going from there. One film that I would like to talk about that is on its way out. It's been a very long time coming. We filmed it in 2022. It's called One Night Only. It was my first feature film really, but that I had a lead role in. And it's a fantastic movie. From what I've seen of it and what everyone tells me, it's like, it's so, so good. And it's coming. It's going to enter festivals next year. I think in my humble opinion, I think it could be a really big movie for this area. I think it could do really, really well in bigger festivals. Nick Green, who is the cinematographer on it, is so unbelievably talented, and it's visually so stunning. Johnny Barton was my co-star, who is my favorite person to ever act with ever. He is so incredible. Avery Maycock was the director. Him and Johnny wrote it together. They were just such a good team. He was such a good director. And that's one that everyone should look out for when it comes, because it's gonna be big when it comes. That's my opinion. But I don't remember what the question was before I started talking about that.
Oh, so it's Hero's Journey.
Oh yeah. That was huge for me, doing One Night Only. That was like, and they were so kind to me, and they were so just like, you are special, which I have a very hard time believing. I think most people do have a hard time being like, yeah, you're right, I am special. But they really just boosted my confidence and were like, no, we got many, many, many auditions for this role, and we knew it had to be you. And I think that really set me up for going forward, getting to do that movie. I had a very good first year of acting. I did, I think, like 8 films in my first year, which was just really, really special and so much fun. Also doing the 48, I got nominated for Best Performance, which felt amazing, especially because I was a very last minute addition to that team. And it's just something that I've always wanted to do and never had the courage to do. And getting to say, no, I do it now is so special. And I can't wait to see, where things go from here. I don't know.
What are you working on right now?
Auditions. Training. I think any actor who's not training is doing themselves the biggest disservice, because if you're not training, you're not getting better. This is a craft where you can always be getting better. And I think if you're not training, you're just stunting yourself. So I really have tried my best to be training in class every week for the last 3.5, 4 years. I don't remember if it's been 4 years. The time runs together. But I just think it's so important to always be getting better, because you can never stop getting better in this craft.
Unless you decide to yourself.
Yeah, unless you make the decision that, nope, I'm good enough.
You set your own limits.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I do have the feature film Mind Flip coming up in September, which is going to be a really cool experience. Again, working with Izzy again, who I love so dearly. So I'm very excited to be on set with Izzy again, especially because she was the beginning of my journey. So to get to to do that again is going to be really fun. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be Hero's Journey. We're gonna take a quick break. We will be back with more, listening to the Buffalo podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, still up here.
Guest.
Veronica Rozler, still on the up.
Nice, and we'll be right back. And we're back. You're listening to the Buffalo podcast. My name is Brian Dudeman, co-host.
What? Oh, yes. Ari Nicole is wide awake and up and ready to go.
Nice. Brian Dudeman still up for the next, 5-10 minutes. And our guest.
Oh, I'm up forever. I don't sleep.
All right, so this is the last segment. This is called Final Thoughts. This is where we ask what you think about being on the podcast and any advice that you would give for a future guest.
Well, I think this has been a really, really great experience. You guys have been very engaging and very comfortable to talk with and be with, and yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I'm excited to get to be here. It was kind of like, oh, I get to come on the podcast. It was such a little honor, and yeah, this was really great. I think yeah, I mean, the same advice I would give to people just in general, I would say to future guests is just be open. Just be open, come on, be willing to share yourself and your story, and yeah, just have fun with it.
So I remembered, I always remember the last minute.
Glad you do, because half the time I totally forget.
So this is something that I do only when I remember. We asked you a lot of questions on the podcast. This is where we give the guest, we give the guest the opportunity to ask either Ari or myself a question.
Ooh, I have to pick?
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask Ari. How long have you been acting for?
I have been acting since 2004.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I started as a child. I'm not older than I look. I'm 29. No, I was actually in my teenish years, and I delivered the newspaper, and one day on the coverage of the newspaper there was a small little, this big little box that said that they needed actors for something and to show up at this one place, and I did, and they put me in the film. And it was originally called The Maze, the movie. It's Bill Cowell's. It's now called Dark Harvest 2. So that was my first film role. I got to do 2 different scenes. And I think it premiered at the Riviera Theater and then the Lockport Palace. And then Lionsgate Films picked it up.
Wow.
So that I took a big break due to a lot of family problems. I wasn't raised in a good way, and so I had a lot of personal struggles that I actually had to survive through in order to get, like you said, to become me again, in order to get back to who you really are to begin with, because I was never really truly me. I never had that opportunity, and so I don't remember exactly when I started acting again. That's wrong. 2011, I went to school at SUNY Niagara for theater, and that's where I have my degree. And I was like a kid. I always knew that this is what I wanted to do. I watched Gene Wilder's Wonka and Mike TV, how he went into the TV. I thought that was how it worked. I really believed that.
You're like, that's gonna be me.
And now one of my kittens, every night, and I'm watching TV, and he's scratching at the screen, and I'm like, Bolty, you can't get it on TV that way. I already tried that. It doesn't work. But he's still trying. He's really cute. Crazy cat lady. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, like you said, it's something I just always knew was what I'm supposed to do. And so whenever I'm on set or on stage, or I also do business theater. So I act with med students. Nice. I had to portray a medical patient earlier today. So, I used that degree, and something I just would like to put out there for people who are passionate in this field. Don't let anybody's opinions sway you from what you really want to do for you. Yeah. Because there are people out there who wish that they could do these things, but they're too afraid to do these things. And therefore, they will often push their fear onto others who are going to try these things and say, oh, no, don't do that. That's not going to get you anywhere. That's a waste of time. As long as you know, like, what you're doing is where you're meant to be, that's all that really matters, because there are a lot of people who unfortunately aren't there to see you shine.
Absolutely.
But when you do shine, you will actually find that there are a lot of people that want to support you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I love that.
All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Veronica, I would love to thank you 1,000 times. Thank you for being a guest. I think it was a really great episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed it. I love to talk, so I love being given the opportunity to sit and talk, because I will. And yeah, it was really good conversation. So thank you so much.
I think we have that in common too.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, Buffalo, I've been Brian Dudeman, co-host.
Ari Nicole, as always.
And until next time, Buffalo, we just have one question for you. 1, 2, 3. You up?